this time he said, "Well, there's no Tarkov TV, no Tarkov TV. We're not going to tell you what's coming. You don't know when it's going to be. No wipe, wink, wink, nod, nod, smile, smile. Finger tap. No
Dude,
wipe.
we'll
It's not. No,
see.
it's definitely not on the horizon any time. No, not even on
We'll
the horizon. No
see.
time
I
soon.
don't know.
Like, which probably means it's like it's going to happen in the next 3 days. Like everyone's guessing, so they're not going to tell us what's coming. Like he said, they want more surprise elements around the wipes. Like it's. I'm intrigued as to the timing. I really am.
I'm gonna say Church is calling it. All right, write it down, mark it
Oh,
down. There's no wipe, dude. We're not getting a wipe to a lighthouse. That's my guess right now. Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on the continuing development of the game, passionate analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I do video editing and some content creation on the side.
I'm GigaBeef, a Tarkov YouTuber helping you improve your gameplay, knowledge, and confidence in EFT. And welcome back to the show, everybody. So, Church, how's it going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. A lot of exciting stuff going on in Tarkov land.
Definitely. A lot of exciting things have happened. It's funny how, like, just you get nothing for ages, and then it's suddenly just like Nikita's just on air, non-stop, talking to everybody about what's going on. It's good. Yeah, it's really, really good. It's really good. I think that's kind of the main bulk of the news, right? It's the various interviews that he did. I did actually watch both, but I only really like was paying like super attention to the one that he did with Pestley. I have to say, because the other one was like a bit more general and stuff, but maybe there was something out of that you took out that I was kind of like not paying as much attention to. I don't know. But yeah, so what have you been up to? You've been playing any Talk this week?
No, so I haven't got a chance to play. I've sort of me and Airwing have been working more closely together. If you don't know, I edit for Airwing Marine, YouTuber, Tarkov content creator, and we've sort of like ramped it up for the anticipation of the wipe. And so I've been working a lot more on editing, and it's been fun. That's just been like I'm also working on my secure container video,
Oh,
and
that's exciting.
yeah, it is exciting. It's gonna be a long project that I'm gonna slowly chip away at because I want it to be. There's a lot of things I want it to be, but right now I'm simultaneously working on the script and also getting footage because I'm using sort of like um part of the idea is like comparing the other games that are sort of like similar, I guess, in the nature of a hardcore genre,
Yeah.
like Dark Souls, like Rust. I might even do a roguelike game because they're kind of similar in that aspect. Um, so yeah, that's kind of just been what I've been up to, man. Yourself?
Nice. I've been really busy this week. I've not really been able to play. I've been focusing more on video stuff, to be honest with you. It's funny because I kind of went a bit back to basics last week, and I put something out, and I wasn't really sure how it's going to go, and like a lot of people really liked it, which is cool. It was about just movement, and it was kind of this series that I had in mind about kind of like the fundamentals of gameplay and like how to get better and not die and stuff. And I think there's a lot of people who are still interested in that kind of thing. And so the first one was about movement, and I'm going to do one about positioning. And there's going to be a bunch of others. I've got like a whole list of things that I want to do. So that was quite cool. And then I've been working this week on the one for tomorrow because I wanted to put something out about like the next wipe, like how to prepare, like what to expect, things to
Yeah,
think about for
yeah,
next time, that kind of stuff. So that's gonna be coming out tomorrow. And I've really like just been working on that to be honest with you. Like the I guess the one random I guess we could talk first about like the random exciting piece of news for like today, Nikita's
hmm
like special surprise, because that's not really like up and coming new stuff. It's like it's happening right now, which is the Killer on Factory thing, which is pretty insane. So I'm sure probably everyone's seen it at this point, but they released a what was it? It's like a picture or something on their Twitter, and it was like a
yeah,
postcard almost, and it's got like Killer in the
yeah.
middle with his thing, and then there's like some Russian, and then there's a guy with the hammer behind,
Kind
who
of like
like
in the shadows almost.
exactly, presumably is Tagilla. Like I read around to try and find somebody who'd like translated it, and I think they said some people said it was said like "Happy Birthday, little brother" or like "Little one" or
Yeah,
something. Like the exact translation didn't seem quite clear. Like people seemed to
right.
have a different opinion. So whether it was like Killer's the younger brother and Tagilla's the older brother. Like some people thought maybe that, or it might be the other way around because no one was really sure who the postcard was written from the perspective of either. It was
Yeah.
interesting. So I don't know. Some people are just like, oh, it's like father and son kind of thing as well. I'm not. So I'm actually not 100% sure as to what actually that means. But I think it's quite funny that Killer just suddenly turned up on Factory and people are just getting like nailed by him, which is super funny. But I think like I feel personally like this is actually a complete like win for BSG. I think this is a fantastic thing that they've done. Firstly, it's exciting, adds things to the game that people are like, oh my goodness, like Killer's on Factory. And I think for them, actually, technically, it's a really important test for a number of reasons. The secondary reason as to why it's important is because they want to put other bosses on streets as a start
Hmm.
and have them meet up and stuff. So this is a test of having, I'm sure the AI is kind of built for interchange. So to try and put him into a different map, there's going to be some bugs, glitches, whatever. So they're testing that out first and foremost. The second thing, though, which I think is like the primary reason why it's so important, is that I reckon that most of Killer's code within Factory is probably Tagilla's code, and they're testing out his AI now before the release of the actual Factory expansion, because that would be such a buzzkill, right? If it releases and it's like bugged and he gets stuck on the floor, or like it doesn't work properly, like that kind of thing. So I think that's
Yeah.
the reason why they've done this, is to do like a mass test of the AI for Tagilla, and then and see what happens, and see if people complain or say it's too hard or it's too easy, or whatever. Try and like tweak a little bit, get some feedback, and then implement it with the Factory expansion. That's what my like take on this is, I think. But it's super cool. People have been having a great time. It looks awesome. It does look
Looks
awesome.
pretty good. On the note about the AI though, I haven't, again, I haven't played and experienced it for myself, but from videos I've watched, he does seem kinda not amazing AI. Like, I think I was watching Daily Slob's video and Killa's looking down like a tunnel and the like, 9 like to the not Daily Slobs approaches him with Killa's side turned to him, and he doesn't
Mhm.
react at all. And it's just like line up the headshot and shoot, and then same I saw of
Right.
like I've seen it a lot, and but that's great. The testing, like let's get the testing done, and I'm like really excited how this Scav Boss is going to work,
Hmm.
AI wise. I'm a little concerned it's gonna be a little bit of a gimmick, kind of like how the cultists are. I haven't encountered cultists, but from when I was trying to find them, I was watching a lot of content on how to farm them
Yeah.
and find them, and it seemed like it worked, like the idea worked until you shot them, and then they were just like, "Great, raider mode." They just like turned to
Yeah.
raiders. You know what I mean? It was like that kind of felt like a letdown to me. Because I wish they would, like, just, like, attack and then, like, go back and, like, just constantly hide and use, like, tactics, like, some, like, real crazy stuff, like throw a grenade not even near your direction, maybe they shoot and, like, reposition, like, just something to, like, kinda reset that whole experience.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been kind of good because that was sort of the issue, right? It's like it's night already. You can't really see them. You don't know where they are, and then they just go
Mhm.
like, rather than being, that's the thing, right? Rather than like turning the difficulty up, just being like, oh, they're just like laser headshot, like AI aimbot. Instead, trying to make them. I think it's hard. It's actually quite hard making like a tactical AI that like feels kind of real and is like fun to play against. Is difficult. It is easier just to turn the aim up to 11 and just have them headshot you as soon as you peek round a tree. So I do. I don't know. It's one of those things where I think it's just a difficult thing to actually put that into practice for AI. Like AI is always difficult unless you've got someone who's like a specialist. It's just tricky. AI is just always a complicated topic. So yeah, I'm pleased that they are testing it out. And as you say, the thing is like Killer does that in interchange too, though, right? Sometimes he just doesn't really respond and you shoot him. And I think those kind of I guess situations is sort of what they're trying to avoid in Factory because like yeah, Factory's a different map too. It's just it doesn't play the same. So they're gonna have to make some
Yeah.
tweaks to it. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how dead you get trying to fight against each other in Factory close range, and he's got this Saiga and the hammer.
Yeah.
I just don't know how the
Yeah.
hammer's even going to function. It's just like, is he going to be like round the
I
corner? You're going to come round and he's just
That's what
going to
I
fucking blam
hope.
your face.
Yes.
It's-
Like, he like, almost like Cultist, but he's, like, playing the corners, and he's hammer mode, and then maybe when
Yeah.
you shoot him, he switches to the gun, or maybe
Mm.
he changes it up, I don't know, but it's gonna be great. The other thing, I hope, if you got something else to say, go ahead. I'm sorry, I kinda cut you off
No,
there.
no, 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 no. Go for it. Go for it.
The other thing I was gonna say is I hope he doesn't have this ridiculously insane HP. Okay. And this has kind of been a gripe of mine. Back when Killa, so they buffed Killa's HP semi
Yeah.
recently,
Hmm.
and it just feels like because he's wearing some of the highest armor and now his HP is so high, it just kind of feels like you kind of have to use a 308, like
Yeah.
M60, M80, M62, M61 round to like kill him because I think he has like what 70 HP in his head and like
Yeah.
590, like,
It's
it's pretty
crazy.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty ridiculous in my opinion. And, gameplay-wise, like, realism outside like, you could argue for realism, but I feel like gameplay-wise, it just really incentivized people to use, like, M61 all the time, you know? Same with, like, Gluhar and because he's got ridiculous HP. And I
Yeah.
kinda wish
And all of his
they
guys, like, it's just insane.
yeah, and I kinda wish I feel like that the approach that they took was more because Killa used to be quote unquote easily farmable, but that's because the high tier ammo is readily accessible. You know what I mean? Um, so I kind of wish I don't know. I hope they sort of like readjust that later when the economy's more, everything's more scarce. I guess there's more of a scarcity aspect to like the really good stuff. But with that being said, it's gonna be interesting because based off the screenshot, he's got that new, armor plate, carrier chest rig, right?
Yeah, is
And
that like just a thorax protection thing? It's like
I
a
would think
slick
so.
thing. Yeah.
Well, it's a armored rig is
Mm,
what it seems to be. So it might be a class 6 armor rig since we don't have one in the game currently, excuse me,
cool.
which is gonna be pretty cool. But the other interesting thing was his, like, the plate is so small when they add armor hit zones, and it's just like you can see his bare flesh and it's just oh man, that's gonna be so interesting. And so I'm not sure if they are gonna give him like 800 HP thorax. I think we talked about this a little bit last time
I
on
think
our
so.
last
I
episode.
think they're gonna have to though. I actually think they're gonna have to because otherwise it's just like
Yeah, it's
it's so
just
difficult, especially on factory. I think it's so hard. But yeah, you're right because it forces people to do certain things, right? It's like when I was looking at like trying to kill Killer and I just was not looking forward to that quest, and I'm like, right, it's basically either like the VSS or M61. Like that's it because both
yeah,
rounds
it's
have
just
like
like
crazy damage and they have crazy pen, and that's really what you need. You need something along those lines, but it funnels people down. Like people used to be able to leg met him much more easily because he had that stun lock thing. So there was at least some
that's
tactic to it,
true. That's
but
true.
they thought it was too farmable and he just got frozen. Then you just like kedded him with what some crappy round and just hit him like a bunch of times, but.
Yeah,
Since they stopped that,
that's
it's like
true.
now that's all you could do is just one tap with the 61s, you know?
That's a good point because there was like a leg meta when I first started playing a farming
Mm,
killer. Like you would buy the Keter and use that one ammo, and just like it would be like you would go in with just a Keter, kill Killa, and you'd be geared up for the raid. So that's a good point, I guess. Yeah,
yeah.
maybe there's some room to play there, just for balance reasons.
Yeah, we'll have to
So
see.
yeah.
I would quite like them to actually introduce some sort of like more interesting mechanic because even though Sturman's quite annoying, I actually feel like he's probably one of the more unique bosses because he kind of plays in a particular way. Like he tells you when he's there,
Hmm.
and then he's a sniper guy, and he has like no armor on really. So if you catch him, he
Right.
dies. But I quite like that, and he's got two really aggressive guards. Like I quite like the design of Sturman, whereas I feel that some of the others are just a bit too kind of brute forcey. I hope they don't make it like that. Like it'd be quite neat if there was. I don't know how they do it. But if there was some kind of like interesting mechanic for it, but I don't know. That would be
Yeah.
kind of fun. I like it if there's something kind of cool. Like you could distract him with a nade or that. I don't know. Just brainstorming randomly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than just being like, it's another guy, he's a huge psycho, he's got 2,000 health, go kill him. It's like,
Right.
okay, it's another one. I'm sure there's something interesting they could do with it, but yeah, we'll see, we'll see. But yeah, factory expansion. I'm excited. I love factory. I
Yeah,
think
dude.
it's going to be really good.
Can't
I
wait.
think it's going to be really, really good. I think it's going to be awesome because that was, unless you have anything else to say about Killer on Factory or anything, that kind of neatly segues into the Pestily Nikita interview, which is the one that I was
Yeah.
focusing on, as I said, um, about how well the factory expansion they said is done. It is finished. It is, and we know it's coming. which is good. But then I've again, I always reference Nice Guy, and he, kind of has the path and the process that the BSG go through before each patch, and then this time he said, "Well, there's no Tarkov TV, no Tarkov TV. We're not going to tell you what's coming. You don't know when it's going to be. No wipe. Wink, wink. Nod, nod. Smile, smile. Finger tap. No
Dude,
wipe.
we'll
It's not. No.
see.
It's definitely not on the horizon any time. No, not even on
We'll
the horizon. No
see.
time
I
soon.
don't know.
Like, which probably means it's like it's going to happen in the next 3 days. Like everyone's guessing, so they're not going to tell us what's coming. Like he said, they want more surprise elements around the wipes. Like it's. I'm intrigued as to the timing. I really am.
I'm gonna say Church is calling it. All right, write it down, mark it
Oh,
down. There's no wipe, dude. We're not getting a wipe to a lighthouse. That's my guess right now.
I think that may well be the case, so long as Lighthouse actually comes out pretty quickly. And this is actually one of the points later, so I'll just
Yes.
bring that now, is that they've
Yeah.
said that 70% of the people on the streets that are working on streets are going to be working on Lighthouse temporarily to smash this map out, basically, release something, and then carry on with streets. Because,
Yeah.
as Nikita said, it's very unlikely anything is going to come off streets this year. And when it does, it's going to be a portion,
Mhm.
and then they're going to do expansions. Which I mean, we can touch on that a bit more, but yeah, I mean, with Lighthouse, I don't know. It's hard to get kind of an idea of the timeline, but I mean, with factory expansion done, I mean, it's obviously the thing that they're focusing on next. I There's some people who think there's going to be a wipe with factory expansion, and some people who don't. But I don't think there's going to be one, right? That's not kind of what they've that's kind of not
So
what they've implied.
Airwing did a video on why he thinks there's gonna be a wipe and reasons for a wipe and reasons to not wipe. And one of the reasons he thought there would be a wipe is scav karma, which we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
You really incentivize people to play their scavs and test out the karma system, which I think is a good reason, but I just I, I don't know. The dynamic of Nikita and like BSG's communication changed so much. I feel like they're sort of like trying to step away from the whole wipe thing. Like I don't know. I something tells me there's just not gonna be a wipe. Like we're building up the hype for it, anticipating the wipe. But I don't know. I don't know. He could do the Christmas thing like he did last year with the surprise wipe, but I feel like there's gonna be a patch and no wipe. That's just my I don't know.
I kind of feel I changed my mind to feel the same way actually after watching all the interviews and watching what he said and just the way that he was acting about stuff. Because if they're not going to do Streets until like Q1 next year, say, and it
Yeah,
comes out
yeah,
in like February or whatever,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
gonna like Streets is gonna be a wipe. Obviously, I say obviously, it might not
yeah.
be. It could not be, but I just don't see
It
really any way
could.
they release Streets without it, to be honest with you. But if they do that and it's like February, March, then that means that they kind of need to wipe in like, well, not right now, but in kind of like 3 months. So if they wiped in 2 or 3 months time from now, then they would actually be in the right cycle to then wipe when Streets arrives. So if they don't do it with factory expansion, do it with Lighthouse in 2 to 3 months time, and then do it with Streets again in like March next year. That would actually then line up. So that's kind of why I changed my mind a bit,
Yeah.
because I think because with Streets being pushed out, because if Streets, okay, let's put it this way: if Streets was going to be released in December, it kind of makes more sense to wipe now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because otherwise the wipe timing
Right.
is too short. And so, but
Yes.
with Streets being pushed out, it means that they don't need to do it now. They can wait a little bit longer until something like Lighthouse is out. Scav Karma is probably not going to make the biggest difference to the game, let's be honest. And they can do it when, there's a whole new map and, there's some other features that they want to bring in. Um, and yeah, and then they can wipe with Streets, which is going to be probably 6 months after that, something along those lines. Because otherwise, you've got this like 3 month gap, which is just not it's not long enough
And
these
and
days.
that's why I think with my, the wipe not coming school of thought is you have an 8-month period. It's like another 2 months, maybe 3 months, Lighthouse comes out, they wipe. And then like you were saying, in February, March, they wipe with Streets, which is like what, 5-ish, 4-ish months? Still pretty close period. But
Yeah.
that's kind of my thought. But even then, maybe it's not a wipe, with Streets. Because I feel like either way, people are like Streets is released, people are gonna want to play either way. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
it's like the one of the defining things of EFT's like progression in their development.
I'm just like I'm thinking like I wonder because if Streets is with a wipe or something, and then they kind of can you imagine like if they've got it like locked off or something, you have to like make your way to Streets, and everyone's like, oh, I want to play Streets, and they go in and they're like, oh my god, I can't, and you have to like communities like figuring out where how to actually unlock it, like how do you get to Streets from the other maps? That'd be kind of sick, but I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be super
Yeah.
super interesting. So. Let me just go back to my notes again. So what else? So basically, he said like no Tarkov TV live. He wants more surprise elements in the wipes, and they're going to do. He said like there's actually a lot of stuff coming in. I think it's. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was for the next wipe where he said there's like. This is when they do wipe the game next. This is not this next patch, I don't think. But the next time that the wipe is coming, there's going to be like changes to the way leveling works, and that kind of thing. There's like some fundamental like game structure stuff that I believe they're going to be amending, and he said it's going to be diff. The game is going to feel the same but it's going to be quite different. So, like the other stuff, he was talking about penetration of objects, which seems to be like a really big thing. Like Nikita seems to be talking about that nonstop, which is about
Yeah.
them modeling like the car engine blocks within vehicles and all this kind of stuff that nobody really asked for, and like the environmental changes that we talked about previously about like blowing up walls and that kind of stuff. He's like seems very interested in the environmental stuff at the moment, and he said like yeah, a lot of the cover that you're used to hiding behind, you won't be able to hide behind anymore. You're going to have to just get used to it and adapt because a lot of the cover is going to be useless now. Like you can't hide behind like a car door, for example, because the rounds are going to go straight through, or you can't hide behind like a wooden fence or inside like a shed or
Yeah.
whatever because the stuff's just going to go straight through now, and it's going to fundamentally change the way that you think about cover and that kind of stuff. And so those kind of things do excite me because that really does make some serious changes to the game in a lot of ways. I mean, there's quite a few
For
cases of
sure.
just impenetrable things in Tarkov, which is quite annoying. But
Even the things that you can penetrate, like in resorts, on the map shoreline inside, there's like what I call sky bridge that connects. In the west wing, on the second floor, there's a like closet, like a jacket closet, if you will, that's sort of like in the hallway as cover, and it has on the side that's facing the sky bridge, it has its back to it. So there's like a layer of wood, and then once you go through that layer of wood, there's two pieces of wood, and there's a gap in between the middle that's like where you would access the closet, right? And if you shoot a gun through that single layer piece of wood, once it penetrates, it has like a random cone or a random vector to
yeah,
it. So it's like it's penetrable and you could, like, shoot people through it, but the odds of hitting them is kinda like unless they're right up against it, it's kinda not that great, honestly. Which was kinda surprising to me, but I think Nikita's really pushing this whole building that immersion, like, when they added the animations for where you could, like, load your gun with a single bullet,
yeah,
when you didn't have any mags, you know? And no one really asked for that feature, and it wasn't, like, something that's like, "Oh, this is, like, a huge gameplay thing," but it's, like, building that immersiveness of the game, you know, that realism aspect of it, which kinda
yeah.
goes into line what you're saying about the penetration of the car and stuff, so it'll be cool. I mean, I'm excited because just being able to shoot reliably through, like, a sheet metal door or, you know, if you have, like, a high pin ammo or, like, low pin bullets going through, like, 9 millimeter going through, like, wood, you know, like a single sheet of wood would be great and it being way more reliable. So it's gonna be I think it would be pretty cool. I'm excited to see that change because that I feel like that has pretty big gameplay implications to it, so that'll be
I
good.
agree. I agree. I do agree. I agree. So he said, yeah, that's gonna be good. A lot of cover's gonna be obsolete, and then yeah, then they was just talking a lot about like the streets itself and stuff that we kind of like
Mhm.
already know and that kind of thing. But some of the things that sort of blew my mind, like I kind of knew this already, but just like to have it confirmed by Nikita, where he's just like streets is going to be so big, there's not going to be one set play style, is kind of what he said, and that. I think this was maybe on the other one where he said like Streets is going to be so large that you could fit all the other maps together, and Streets is bigger than all of them together. And like you could just play the whole game on Streets if you wanted to. Like the other maps just would all
Yeah.
fit inside it because it's just such an enormous map, which is super super cool.
Yeah.
And like he did say about um how we've only seen one piece of
Mhm.
Streets. Like
Mhm.
all of the trailers, all of the teasers, everything we've seen is just like this area that is now being called like Concordia, which is like the residential apartment, and that is all we've seen. We've just seen the Concordia area of the map, and there's like loads of other stuff. And he actually said Like they've got the full like the movie theater is completely finished, the police station is completely finished, all of that stuff, all the surrounding areas is done, but we haven't seen any of that stuff. All we've seen is one apartment building and like a bit of
Yeah.
the surrounding like road. That's it, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy because like it's massive. Like it's so huge, right? And this is like one building in the whole place. It's like it's nuts. So I'm like I'm really excited. I'm really excited about it, and like especially when he says there's no one set play style. So that's kind of true of some other maps. Like you think of Shoreline or something, and there's long range outside, and or you can go to resort or whatever. So it's gonna be like that, but obviously on a much grander scale because you could spend like the whole time inside one apartment building, or just skulking around in the streets, or
God.
doing whatever. It's gonna be
It's gonna be
sick.
so cool if you could just like sit up on top of a rooftop with like an SVD and just like snipe people, just sit there the whole map with like your can of Tashanka and your, bottle of water, just chilling out, like
I do wonder how many people you'll see, like with 40 players. It depends. I don't even know now, like whether 40 is too many, too little. Like we're just gonna have to see. I don't
I
know,
I
man.
think it's gonna be great because I think he mentioned too, either in the in the interview of Pastelli or in the Summer Games interview, that he wants it to feel like you're you're alone, but in the back of the mind, you know you're never alone. You know what I mean? Sort of like it reminds me of like
Yeah,
that DayZ thing where it's like you don't encounter anybody that often, but when you do, it's like, oh shit, dude, I gotta
yeah,
do, you know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
it's gonna be pretty cool, man. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
because I think that feeling, because it's one of those things. It's like a double-edged sword. Because like I actually, I love DayZ back in the day playing the pre-alpha, but like that, the feeling, there's some feelings from DayZ which never replicated properly in Tarkov because the raids are kind of shortish. Whereas like
Yes.
in DayZ, because you're like, because it's a proper survival game, right? You can be like, you can spend your time building
Right.
your resources and like building up your stuff and like making fires and like building your camp and like organizing your stuff, and it takes a while, and you have to do it like in the game, right? So you end up spending like maybe 2 to 3 hours with your mates just like chatting and like sorting things out, whatever, like you would if you were like out in the woods. And then like, have you seen The Walking Dead? There's like, it reminds me of like the
Mhm.
first season of The Walking Dead or something, where like people are just like organizing stuff, like trying to survive, whatever, and then suddenly like someone just gets shot in the head, and it's like 3 hours of no action, and then and you're like you're like trying to cook a piece of like beef on a fire, and then
Yeah.
someone gets sniped out of nowhere, and it's like everyone just is like headless chicken like crazy everywhere, like it's completely insane. But like I've not quite, like you don't quite get enough time to build up,
No.
like it's kind of the issue, almost like the issue with EFT in some ways is that like your butt is so clenched the whole time when you're playing that you're almost ready to be killed at any moment, because because the whole game is like risk reward central, and you're like, oh, there's like this underlying tension that never really goes away. Whereas in DayZ, you could like, because it was long enough, you kind of got lulled into it, and you didn't never really saw anyone. You got lulled into a false sense of security. So when things did happen, it was like it was crazy. So that's I kind of hope in some ways that like with longer raids, if you have a bit more time, because that's why I like them having the other maps, by the way, because I don't always have time to play like a 2 hour raid.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you did, or you on stream or whatever, you're just like, right, we're gonna play some like serious streets, and then it's like half an hour, you're like looting or you're going to do some quest or whatever, and then it's like suddenly you spot someone and they're like in a window, and you're like, did they see me? Do they know I'm here? Like, where are they? Is it just one? And then that's the thing of like the tension. I'm excited. I'm excited. I think it's good. It'll
Yeah.
bring a new feeling.
I think there's something to be said too for like both the map design slash the structure of a raid. Because, like we've said before, you sort of spawn people on opposite sides of the map, and your extracts are on the opposite side of the map. So you're like guaranteed to cross over. So you know when you're going to the center of the map, that's like the most area of tension. And you know at the start of the raid and the spawns, if you're knowledgeable in spawn locations, you know the potential of players. But in between that, there's some gaps of, no one should be here type of feeling,
Yeah.
right? But with streets, it's going to be so big. Hopefully, it's not going to be like I spawn here, I run to this one building, I look to my left, and there's a guy running across the street. You know what I mean? Hopefully, they can like sort of eliminate that, if you will.
And I think they
And
can, because it's so big.
that's my hope, man. That's my hope. I hope it really feels like that true open world experience, man, where it's not like this. I think of it like CS:GO esque style, but the objectives are typically in the middle of the map. Um, so it's like inverse battle royale thing where like everyone goes to the center to like get the good loot. You know what I mean? Some people,
Yeah,
anyways. So we'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be good, man. I'm really excited for it.
I know, me too.
Um, One of the things too that he mentioned in that podcast was the patch 12.12 is gonna have VoIP and Inertia,
Mhm.
which is like, whoa, dude, that's pretty
Yeah.
huge, man. That's pretty huge. I think he was saying like they want to. He told the team like, guys, I'm tired of people asking about VoIP. Get it done. It's gonna
Yes,
be in the
exactly.
game.
Well, I like what he said. He was like, yeah, VoIP. I didn't like the idea of VoIP, and then I thought about it, and then I like the idea of VoIP, and we're gonna do it.
Yeah,
It's kind of like that kind of thing, right? It's just like I didn't like it, now I do like it, and so we're just gonna do it. And that's the thing. Like even Pesley was like, I think that was on the Pesley one where Pesley was just like, it's a good idea. You know, don't listen to people who tell you it's a bad idea. It's a good idea, and I can understand why he didn't like it to begin with. But now, I think that's great, right? It's great to have like the lead dev be like, this is my idea of how the game should play out, and then he's like, after hearing all the pros and cons, he's like, on balance, maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is going to be a good thing, and then put it in instead. And that's really good. I think it's just such a good mindset that Nikita's got. I think he's got better as well over time.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be exciting, man. I mean, I'm like, I'm pro VoIP, but I don't think VoIP's gonna be good when it first comes out. I think there needs to be an incentive. I could This is like a whole separate tangent we could go on. Um, so yeah, I'll just say I don't think it's gonna be the game does. I feel like the game lacks incentivization. I don't know if that's a word to use VoIP to cooperate, right? Because it's kind
Yeah,
of like and for example, in DayZ, I was thinking about this, when you die, you get sent back to the beach.
yeah,
You could be like on the opposite side of the map, and it's a big map, right? And when you die, you get sent back. Some people are gonna have mercy, right? If they kill you, right, they know that you're gonna get sent back. Alternatively, what's like the value of killing you? Well, eliminating threat. But if you pose no threat, right, they can knock you unconscious and or tie you up and handcuff you. Like there's a lot of things you can do
yeah.
to sort of like see what they have. You know, you could rob them. Like there's so many things you could do to see if they have any value on them.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I remember playing not too long ago, just memeing around basically, and I was just like, didn't really have anything, and ran to this guy, and he didn't really have anything, and I just started like punching him, and I was just like voice chatting and like just trolling him basically, and we ended up working together and having fun, and we died to a bunch of zombies because we're dumb, but there was like an incentive to survive because
Oh,
failing to survive is so punishing. It's
yeah.
so punishing. Whereas in EFT, I just feel like it's not really that punishing. I mean, if you I don't know. The
It
most
doesn't
punishing
matter as
part
much because you have your stash. So
yeah, if the most punishing part is loading a raid. That's, like, the most
especially
punishing
towards the end.
part.
Well, I what I hope they do, right? So there's actually for me, there's VoIP has kind of two elements, just to kind of touch on
Mhm.
my thoughts on it. Firstly, there's the working together and playing with other people and that kind of thing, which is good. And they need to give people incentives. They make more of these PMC and scav exits. They do stuff with PMC karma, which means if you do something with the other team, then you can, I don't know, get whatever, right? So there'll be incentives. One thing though that I think could be absolutely huge that don't think I've really heard anybody speak about is getting rid of Discord, playing with squads, and using the in-game VoIP, because if they do it right, you will be able to tell where the voice is coming from and know who is who
If they do it, that's a
if they do
big
it right.
if, man.
But that's huge, right? Because right now it's
Yeah.
super hard to figure out who teammates are because
Oh,
of
yeah.
things that other people have talked about in Veritas and whoever, right? Is that the game and like even to be fair, even my friends who used to play with me, like guys that I know in real life who don't play FT anymore, that was one of the biggest complaints that they had about the game was that if they were in a squad with me in real life, they wouldn't be able to tell who I was just by looking at my character, my my sort of body shape, the way that you actually walk. Like you can tell who someone is if you know them well enough out of the corner of your eye just by like how they move. Because each person has kind of like a unique like gait and like step to them, right? And you just know who these people are. Whereas in Tarkov, everyone looks the same. Everyone's wearing the same armor. They're all the same height. They've all got basically the same character model. It's impossible to tell who is who. And so it actually is like harder than in real life in EFT to figure out who your teammates are. And I know Veritas has talked about some kind of like abstraction things to sort of simulate the fact that you know who your teammates are by, potentially some indicator or something, which is very like
Sure, sure,
anti-EFT, but like it adds to the immersion as opposed to not necessarily the realism. But it's unrealistic inherently to not know who your friends are, right? At the same time. So it's a bit silly.
sure,
Whereas
sure.
this would be a way to get around all of that, because then if it would
Mm,
firstly incentivize teams to use the in-game VoIP rather than using Discord for one, because you get an advantage in game because you get the positional microphone audio if you use the VoIP as opposed to using Discord, which is just flat into both ears, and you'll kind of
yeah.
know where each other are and stuff. I think it could be really useful.
Yeah, for sure. My only art counter argument is when I played squads a lot, we started using the in-game comms, like the, you know, goddamn traitor or whatever it is, the voice
Yeah,
lines. And it's like it works, but because the audio is like not amazing, in Tarkov, it's like so yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the meta will be VoIP plus Discord. So you'd be like, you know, where you at? And then he talks in game, and you hear your buddy's voice in game, and then if the Steam audio and the regular audio, all that works how it's supposed to, you'll be able to like pinpoint where your buddy is, and that way you sort of don't kill your teammate. It's gonna be cool. No.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's that, and then inertia, the other thing for
Oh yeah,
12-12,
that's gonna be
which
exciting.
it's going to be good, and I'm interested to see how it feels, because it's very much a feeling thing in it, and they're not going to get it right at the beginning, I don't think. And
I
it's
don't
going to
think
feel
either.
weird, so it's going to be
Yeah.
hard to know whether it is right, because it's just going to everything. It's going to feel like it feels playing PUBG when you go back to it from playing EFT, which is like trying to control a sack of potatoes with a controller. Is basically how it feels. You're dragging your
Yeah.
body around the map. Like, it's going to feel weird for everybody. It's going to feel wrong. It's going to feel like they've screwed it up, even if it's correct. And so it's going to take a while before people go, okay, we've played it for a month. We're used to it now. We see what the meta is with inertia. Does it need to be increased? Does it need to be decreased? Is there certain elements of it that don't work properly? Like, that's
Yeah.
really how they're gonna have to do it, I think. So they just like put it in and then see. Um, because it's gonna be interesting, just because like it's gonna change how the game works. And as people say, like, holding angles will be better. Will it promote camping? Maybe a bit, but and like camping angles in
I,
particular, I mean, rather than camping like whatever. But like at the moment, Pika's advantage is so strong that maybe it'll actually just negate
right.
that, and then it'll kind of feel normal. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think it will make holding angles more relevant. Um, and I think peaking will still be very strong, but there will be a once you peak and you try to get back into position, you're gonna have to sort of counter that inertia of you peaking, right? Of you moving out of cover. So now if you imagine like played a game like CS:GO, where you have that inertia where you can't just like strafe rapidly back and forth, there's a
Yeah,
little bit of a counter to your weight. You feel like you actually have weight within the game. So I think that's going to be really good because I feel like the meta at the high level is just like you quick peek, see the enemy, and you get behind cover, and then you like line up the shot, not through the wall, and then you peek pre-fire, and it's like either you got him or you didn't. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And you just like constantly do that over and over, and
mm,
it's like, and it is skill based, and there's a lot of cool things you can do with the movement, but it's like that was like such a thing when I first played the game is I was like anticipating like based off the gameplay footage I've seen and based off like looking at the game, I was like, dude, this game is like super realistic, super milsimi. And I played it and it just like I was taking my time constantly and I just kept dying. And then all of a sudden it's like once you just start getting aggressive, it's like, whoa, this actually works. You know what I mean? It's like it was such a like disconnect from like what I was anticipating, the play
exactly.
experience.
It's quite strange. It is quite strange.
Yeah.
So
Now, definitely holding corners is really strong, and playing slow it's, like, situationally good, but just in, like, a vacuum, if I'm in a hallway and the other guy's in the hallway, there's 0 reason for me to spam AD on my keyboard. You know what I mean? It's just, like, there's no disadvantage, there's only an advantage. So now they're gonna make it to where it's, like, you gotta be more decisive on and more methodical on your movements, which I think is just gonna add to the, like, skill, raise the skill ceiling in the game, if you will, and
Yeah,
I think
I hope
it's a
so.
good thing.
I hope so
Uh
because like the way I see EFT right now, right, it's like and it's kind of the way that I've ended up playing. It's sort of to what you were saying about you know whether you peak or not or AD or whatever, and it's kind of like right now it's like if you know where the other guy is, you be aggressive. If you don't know where the other person is, then you play defensive because you still kill people just by sitting in a bush and shooting them as they run past. If they don't see you and they don't know where you are, then it's fine. But if you both are in a 1v1 and you both know that each other is there, you want to be aggressive in that situation because then it's all about pre-firing whatever if both players know where each other are. So it's like in defensive passive mode, first engagement, you want to be slow and holding angles is actually quite strong because they don't know where you are. They have to figure out there's a person and then where you are and then aim, but you're already there. And so like that time the peak advantage is too short for it to matter in that
Mhm,
situation. But yeah, when you're in
mhm.
like the situation you described before, where you're like doing the AD and the quick peek and the and the pre-fire and stuff, then that's when it starts to matter, right? So it's like that's why
Yeah.
aggression is so important. When like first engagement is like kind of passive, and then like every other engagement after that until one of you is dead is like
Right.
full on aggro, like nade spam round the
Yes.
corner, push, push, push,
Yes.
push, wide swings, all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, so it's going to be good and sort of counter that a little bit to kind of bring the sort of slightly more passive and slow play into not just like the first couple of shots when you're engaging from the first time, which will be good.
I
I
can't
think.
guarantee Inertia will be good, but
No.
I believe the concept of it is gold. So,
Yeah.
let's hope
So
that, the first implementation is pretty good, and then if it's not, we can always, provide feedback and they can get it to a suitable point. My other big hope, and we might talk about this before, and I'll be brief, is that if you kit out light kits like an SMG and a very light rig, a very light vest, very light backpack, that you have less inertia. Like if they have some type of multiplier on your weight. So then there would be like an incentive to like run light gear. And
yeah,
I think that'd be really cool because then you could still sort of lean into that aggressive play style if that's something you want to do. Whereas now it's like if I want to kit up really heavy, there's like a consequence to that decision. Something I like there's a pro to it. I get all this extra room to loot, I get all these extra mags and meds to hold, I get all this, like, better gear, better armor to wear, but I'm starting heavy and I have more inertia, so it's gonna be interesting. I'm really excited for it, like, I think it's just, like yeah, it's gonna be great.
that would be awesome actually, because like those kind of choices I think are
For
really,
sure.
really,
Oh,
really
man.
useful. So good because right now like there's
Really
not enough difference between someone light and someone heavy, and at the moment it's like when you're super heavy, then you feel the inertia in the game. Right, it feels like your character struggles to get up to speed and like takes a while to slow down, and that's
yeah.
great. But that should be more on a sliding scale, which I guess is what they're trying to bring in. Um,
Yeah, for sure, definitely, definitely.
because it feels great when you're overweight and you're like struggling to move your kit across the map. It feels
Yeah,
like you feel the weight. It feels heavy. It feels good. So the other thing that I wanted to speak about streaks
yeah,
that he said about, which I'm really really excited about, was about the car lot Scav Boss,
mhm.
which is like the guy's going to be in like the fortified car lot with, and he was
Yes.
like, there's going to be minefields, snipers, gun emplacements. Like you can take it on if you want, but you're gonna like, he's like, I'm gonna, it's going to be so funny to see how quickly everybody dies, and I'm looking forward to that. That's going to actually
Oh,
be some
man.
amazing gameplay plus also content too of like assaulting the scav boss in this place, right? Because like killing the bosses now is kind of like it's a thing and it's farmable, whatever. But this like might be something extreme. The same thing with the BTR and like with the RPGs, and it's going to be kind of like a big event to go and destroy one of these things or storm the compound. Maybe you need like a full squad of like 4 or 5 people to actually successfully storm the compound and get in, that kind of thing. So that's going to be super cool to have like an area that is like actually a no-go zone, because at the moment I don't feel like there's really anywhere like that in EFT where it's like you just can't go there. And it's going to be like proper like avoid mode, but it is technically beatable, which is what I really like. It's like you can beat it in theory, but you don't because you know it's silly, and I like that because it makes your player decide to like avoid the area on purpose because it's so dangerous, and it's even dangerous for geared players. I think it's cool, but if you wanted to go to do like an actual like raid to storm the compound, you could and gear up for it in particular, and plan out your like your path of attack and that kind of stuff. I think it's gonna be absolutely insane. I'm really
He
looking forward
made
to that.
it he made it seem like it was impossible,
Yeah,
which I love because
yeah,
now I wanna try like, I have to try it,
yeah.
Nikita. You
I
just made it
know.
seem like impossible, I have to try it. Like, I'm sorry. You forced my hand. Oh, dude,
Exactly.
it's gonna be great, man. Because I can see where it's like that classic WoW raid scenario where like you and your buddies like plan all of this stuff out to go storm this like compound, and it's just like you slay the boss and you get the loot. Like it sounds great, man. It sounds
End
great.
up in streets and churches like Leroy. What?
Instantly blows up to a landmine.
Yeah. But it'd be like that would be really, really cool. And if they have some
Yeah,
special find and raid stuff like in that compound or whatever as well, like it depends on how impossible it is, but I don't know. It would just be really neat to have like something special in there that, or just even like a
sure,
really, really
man.
high tier like loot spawn kind of thing. You're guaranteed to get something good like a thermal scope or like an OFC shells or like whatever. Something that's like super valuable and people are looking for like big guns, big guns, big
Yeah.
ammo, good stuff, that kind of stuff. So I'm super looking forward to that. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be sick.
The last thing was they had some screenshots when Pestilio was talking with Nikito, the smart shotgun and its thermal scope, and then some like quote unquote crappy thermal scope. Which was, cool to see. The smart shotgun's gonna be interesting because if you look down, like it's almost like seems like a peripheral thing. Like you spot maybe like you move the shotgun to the bush, and within your peripheral vision of the iron sight, or I guess like high ready, you sort of see that he's hiding in the bush. That'd be pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, I don't really know how the smart
it looks
shotgun
pretty
works,
cool.
honestly. I've not really looked
You
into it
know.
that much. I haven't. I just don't really know how the 155. By the way, I learned this week because somebody commented on my channel that the MP is actually MR because the P is the Russian R, so it's actually MR 133, MR
Oh, really?
153,
That's
155,
interesting.
which I didn't realize. I get like lots of people telling
Yeah.
me stuff like this, which is quite kind of cool, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I learned something. So
Yeah.
and when you listen to like the thing, you can hear him. He says like MR 155, which is kind of cool. Random
That
piece of
reminds
Russian
me.
knowledge.
Yeah, speaking of like military knowledge things, did you hear that the tank sorry, the BTR is
Dang.
is gonna be a taxi service? Did we talk about
Yes,
that last one?
I think we
I don't think we
did.
did.
Or did we not? I can't even remember what we
No,
spoke
we
about
we
last
thought it
time,
was a
actually, this week.
Scav Boss
Oh, yes, because we
because
were speculating last time, and then we found out.
yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So it seems like you're gonna walk up to it. There's gonna be like a UI that pops up, and you can like pay to like travel somewhere slash play pay to go blow up a building or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
It is very interesting that that came out.
I do love that direct quote from Nikita. Just like, you pay your money, and then you go F shit up. Like,
Yeah.
and that just sounds so good because I think he said as well there's gonna be one like with the gun, like with the autocannon, and one without. So there's one that's gonna be kind of like an
Hmm.
AP, just like a troop transporter that you can just like move around in. And then there's one that you can like was gonna be more expensive that you can like hire with the gun and blow stuff up. I don't know how it's gonna work because
Okay.
he said it's not gonna be like Battlefield where you can just control a whole tank on your own kind of thing, but it's like
Right.
something along those lines. I don't know if you actually get to like use the gun or whether you get to choose a position in the thing or you get to drive or you just use the gun. I don't really know, but it sounds interesting. I was not expecting that, I have to say.
I was not expecting that either. I was pretty I felt like we were and most of the community was on the train of, yeah, this is a scav boss or some type of raider black division thing going on.
Exactly.
So it's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, we'll have to see how that turns out in the gameplay and what that means for player behavior. Um, too early to really maybe we could speculate, but no way of really knowing what's gonna be like until we play it. So
Yeah, I mean,
we'll
I guess
see.
the implication is that Streets is so big that you actually need to ferry yourself about.
That yeah, that's a wow, I didn't even think about that. That's true, man. That's true. I wonder
Might
how
take a
if it
long
will like
time.
I wonder if it has a set path or I wonder how that works, man. We'll have to
Yeah, I
see,
don't
man.
know because like we don't really know how the extracts work on Streets either. To be
Yeah,
honest with
that's
you, so it
true.
might just be like, right, I need to get an extract, and it's like it's going to be like a 20-minute walk that way, and I got to go through all these various bits of people chilling on rooftops with their SVD, just shooting me and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see.
yeah.
But I like the idea of getting in the APC and just like blowing stuff up, or even just trying to shoot it with. It'd be quite fun if they had when they add RPGs. I hope they're quite rare. I just hope they're quite rare. But he said they're even going to add like the anti-personnel versions. Can you imagine though? Because people are going to turn up on factory. It's going to be like GL all over again. Someone just turns up to factory with like anti-personnel RPGs. It's going to be It's going to be kind of disgusting. Can you imagine if
Yeah.
like, oh, well, I guess it's going to be expanded, but like in its current iteration, can you imagine if you get like the one that's next to the forklift spawn and you just run through and just RPG the entrance to the forklift back room, and it's just like a squad of three just dies in the back. So you just anti-personnel RPG'd them from like 5 seconds in.
Dude, that would be, oh my god, that'd be so dirty. It'd be fun for the guy
Oh my
shooting the
god,
RPG.
it would be. It would be just so. This big rocket comes. Oh,
Triple kill.
yeah, it'd be nuts. It'd be pretty nuts. So yeah, we'll see. But
Yeah.
I mean, it takes ages to like pop them back in. It's probably going to be even longer than in other games because it's like going to be realistic. And as chat's saying as well, it's probably going to be like 1x2 slots for each rocket and stuff. They'll make
Yeah.
it hard,
Yeah.
so that's okay. Like I quite like the idea of that. Like make it really hard to bring the rocket launcher in and stuff, or like an RPG or whatever. And it's like you have to actually purposefully go and bring it to like go and blow up the tank. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it, right? It's just too cumbersome otherwise.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
I don't really have a problem with like these military grade explosive small arms like grenade launcher. Like they got that one grenade launcher screenshot where it's like the multi-chambered GL where you can put like a bunch of them in and just like doof, 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 doof.
Yeah,
You know, I don't have a problem with that if it's like balanced within the economy, you know, if it's
yeah,
scarce, if it's like super rare, really hard to get, you know, super expensive. So as long as that stuff's balanced and it's not like, you know, one day in the future I load up factory and it's just a bunch of RPG 7s and GLs and GL 40s, then I'm gonna be a little sad, but you know,
you feel
hopefully
like you're
one day
playing
we get to a
Unreal
place.
Tournament with Inertia.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Start like have like these wall bangs or wall bounce grenades where you just shoot them
Yeah,
boom, 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 like some
yeah,
crazy stuff like that. So we'll see.
yeah. We will see. We will see.
All right. Anything else?
I think that's kind of the highlights. That was everything that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I think that's all. That was all the points from the things that I thought were interesting. I mean, there's other stuff about like timings and other bits and pieces, but like this is most of the interesting stuff, I think. So yeah, I think we can move on to our brand new segment.
What? New segment. Uh
Exactly.
I wish I had a button that just popped up a live graph. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
MLG horn or something.
Some like image pops up. New segment. All right. So yeah, let
I'm
me
sure,
pull
fix it
up.
in post.
Yeah. Thanks, Gigi. Just gave me extra work. So we got some call-ins from our audio platform, Anchor. If you didn't know, that is sort of our hub site where you can leave us a message. You can record and send us a message if you got a topic or something you want to add or a question, whatever. Man, we would love to hear from you guys. So let's go ahead and pull up the first call here. Do you have the call from Jake?
I do.
All
I
right.
do.
Let, let's
Let
go
me
ahead
just
and play it.
load
Yeah, yeah.
this up. Okay. Tell me when you're going.
Yeah, let's play it.
Okay.
Do you guys think the in-raid traders will make everything find and raid on your way out?
Okay, so that was Jake, yeah?
Yes. Jay
And
Coolin says, I hope that everybody could hear that on the stream. But he basically
yeah.
said, I hope so do you think that traders being in the raid will mean that everything is fine in raid on the way out?
So do
Which
you
that's
this
it.
is
That's
what I
a
thought of, man. I've thought of this before. That's a really interesting thing. I feel like okay, I'm gonna. I feel like if open world and in-raid chairs becomes a thing, what's the reason for found and raid? What's the reason? The only reason I could think of, like let's say the flea market's a location as well. Like hypothetically, everything there's no more menus. Everything's in raid, right? Um, the only reason I feel like is for the container. Man, that's the only like death. That's the only reason. Am I wrong?
I
Because think about
think
it.
yeah.
If I go to therapist, I buy something. Maybe it doesn't come off as found and raid because then they don't want you flipping stuff on the flea market. Maybe that's another reason.
Maybe that is a reason, but like if you want to go from there to the flea and it's all so okay. So I
It's
don't
all in
mind.
raid,
I don't mind that, right? If you have to move from one location to another and you're not just in menu
right?
screens, I personally would think that that's completely okay. Now, Now, I think that the question is actually, I think the question is purely theoretical because I don't. The bigger sort of like answer around this question for me is that I don't think this is what's going to happen, and I think
You
that
don't
like
think what exactly is
well,
going to happen?
I don't think that because I do think they said that traders won't be actually physically present in the raid, didn't they? But then they did say that they can die, but I'm not sure if players can actually
That's
kill them.
yeah.
So I think that it's like I think they meant more like event wise. I just don't think the traders actually going to be in the raid specifically. But if they are, then I think that it makes sense to get rid of the finding raid system in its entirety if the flea market and the trading system is in raid
Yes.
ultimately.
That's sort of my thought as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Because the core of the founding rate system was to counter RMT, right?
mhm,
Because people were doing. I mean, think about it. You're a cheater. Okay, you go to labs, you kill the whole lobby, you loot a labs red key card. You go, you sell it, you put a listing, someone pays you money, you go buy the key card. That guy gets the key card for free, basically. I mean, he paid for it with real life money, but he gets it for free. And then what can he do? He can sell that key card for a ridiculous price, and that cheater that just sold you the key card for nothing, or however they drop it in raid, I guess is how they used to do it. So let me back up a bit. Dude, you would go into raid for cheater, he would drop the key card, you would put in your container, die, take that key card, put it on the flea market, sell it, and then typically that same cheater would then buy that key card back from you to give you the money, right? And he resets the whole cycle again. Like, so that was like their way of cutting that. And it did cut that specifically. Um, there's still ways people still do RMT, it's just not through that method anymore, right?
yeah.
Um, typically. Some cases, whatever. Um, I don't know where I was going with that. So
But yeah, look, I
enjoy
think
picking up the pieces. Go ahead. It's all
that's
you.
fine. That's all good. Look, I just think yeah, they put it in place for very particular reasons. I can
Right.
also see
Yes.
reasons why they
Yes.
put it in place. When they originally put the system, like I'm still torn about finding raid personally anyway because I don't think that it is a nice or intuitive or clean system,
Right.
but I
There's
do
some
think it
room.
had a positive impact upon the gameplay.
Yeah.
Even though I don't actually really like finding raid, I do think it was better for Tarkov as a whole. Even though I don't think
As
it's
a whole.
necessarily the right like answer because like I've said it before, right? Like you find a weapon from another PMC in raid, that's not finding raid. You craft something in the
Yeah.
hideout out of raid, that is finding raid. That's not a good system. Just putting that out there. That ain't a
Yeah.
good system. Like it's
Yeah.
unintuitive, it's very confusing, but overall the effect that it has on the economy and player behavior is actually kind of positive, I think.
Sure.
In general, and it sort of it kind of deters people from doing hatchling stuff and running and dying, throwing grenade, killing yourself, like for the most part. And we talked about the
Hmm.
laundering stuff through the hideout before. You get components to then craft to make something to sell on the fleet. So there's all that too. So but those are kind of like the fringe elements now. Like the problem used to be this, and they cut a hole through the middle, and now it's just like the edges left. It's still there. There's some crumbs remaining, but it's better than it was, and I think it's okay. So yeah, I think that's the thing about the finding raid system. It's like if you're playing hardcore and if you don't use the traders and if you don't use the flea, finding raid actually isn't even like
It's not even a thing.
it's not a thing at all.
Well, the
And
biggest
so
thing there too is you don't use the container, right? You can only
yeah,
use the container for keys. So it's
yeah.
like it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, so it actually doesn't exist. It doesn't affect your gameplay in any way. So
Right.
if you were then hypothetically to put all the traders in raid, coming back to your question, and you had the flea market in raid as well, then it doesn't matter, right? You just make it difficult to go from one trader to another. There's an element of risk taking something. You might
Right.
like. I actually think that that's okay to have arbitrages, so to speak. You go to a trader, you buy the stuff because you're a high level or high reputation with this guy. You go to the flea
Yes.
market and you sell it there. If there's a level of risk involved in taking it from one place to another,
Yes.
fine, make a
Right.
profit. That's okay.
Yes.
It's the
Absolutely. Because
risk-free
there's a
profit that's a
risk.
problem. Yeah, it's the risk-free
Yes.
profit
That's the
that is a
key.
problem. Yeah.
That's the key.
So there you
Nailed it
go.
on the head.
That's my answer, I think, to the question in a
Cool.
roundabout way.
Yeah, great question, Jake. Next one, Patimus.
Yes, who's actually in our chat today, I think. So let's
What?
play his thing. Let's play his thing.
Okay.
Hey, GigaBeef, Church, How's it going? I love the podcasts and videos you guys put out on EFT. I think I can confidently say we all have a special love for Tarkov more than any other game at the moment. However, I'm really looking forward towards the next iteration in the Battlefield franchise, and that got me thinking. For each one of you, what would a game have to deliver to steal you away from Tarkov?
Whoa, that's a big one.
That is
Uh,
that is a big one.
you want to go first?
Sure. So the types of games that end up stealing me away are probably not necessarily Tarkov-like. Like Tarkov's kind of a type of this sort of game that I like. So other games that I play like Dota 2 a bit as well. Offline with like friends and that kind of thing. So basically any game with like massive complexity that's I can like dig my teeth into.
Right.
That's intriguing. It's almost like puzzle game type, but in a more it's not like not just puzzles. You know what I mean? It's like something that's like a big sort of problem to solve, and it's like multifaceted and is like super interesting. Those are kind of the games that tend to interest me. That said, probably if you're talking like practically speaking, because like I'm probably about to commit heresy here because I've never actually really liked Battlefield all that much. But the game that's next on the horizon is that I would like to play and is possibly going to consume me more than anything else is maybe the remake of Diablo 2.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm in great
For sure. I
danger.
could totally
I'm in
see that.
great danger of getting consumed by the Diablo 2 remake because I have played the absolute crap out of the original Diablo 2,
Yeah.
and it's a special game, It's a special game. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's probably it. But like, yeah, otherwise it's something that's like super complex. There's a game that I've been recommended a few times that I am like unwilling to get into, which I think a lot of people probably would have played, called Factorio, and I'm like sort of
Heard of it.
vaguely familiar with like what actually happens in it, and I don't want to look into it too much because maybe I'll play it on the stream at some point because like it's like an intricate like machine assembly kind of like building industrial kind of thing, and that sort of stuff just takes my soul right out of my body. It's like insane. It's like back when I played Minecraft, and I played Minecraft probably is my like favorite game of all time, I would say, probably. And I used to play the Tech It pack on that, and you could build like nuclear reactors and like water cooling towers for like all sorts of stuff. Like it was insane. It was like there was like a golden patch, and that because it was like there was inconsistencies, so they couldn't carry it on. But there was like one particular patch of it that I absolutely adored, and I like knew this thing like really quite well,
Inside
and
and out, yeah.
and it was insane. And it was like we were like building like nuclear power stations with like three like cooling towers, like pumping ice in and running it at like the highest like speed that you could, and this kind of stuff. And like there was like some irregularity with the map because like Minecraft like loads in chunks effectively, and somebody who's like unrelated to what we were doing spawned in over somewhere else and like wandered in from the side into our base, but they loaded in the reactor but not any of the cooling towers, and we came back in and there was just an enormous crater where our base used to be because the thing had gone super critical and blew up and blew our whole base up because it was insane. We had like 8 like 20-story towers of like cooling for this thing,
Yeah.
and it didn't load in, and so like the whole thing exploded. So like anything with that like that level of complexity just like has the ability to just absorb me completely. So that for me that would be it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you and I sort of have similar tastes in games in that way. I mean, Dota 2 completely sucked my 20s up. I mean, it's really bad, dude. My Steam hours, and this is not pure gameplay, this is like me sitting in the menu idle,
Mhm.
is a year. Like, I have a year. I've spent a year of my time on Dota 2 or playing Dota 2. Like, it's just like, God, that's kind of sad to think about. But yeah, man, I love games that just have like that depth to it, man. Like, this is not like just this cut and dry thing. Now, I will say, I have played casual games, like story driven games, and I can get into those games. It's not as likely, but one of my favorite games of all time is Life is Strange. And it's literally just like a walking simulator where you just sort of like go along with the story. and I just got really immersed into the story, and I just like could connect with the characters and the people involved, and it was like, yeah, I mean, it was a really unique experience because I just never would have seen myself playing a game like that. Um, so yeah, as far as like that Battlefield game goes, I'm not particularly interested in it. Like, I mean, I think it's cool they're rebooting that um franchise, if you will, the whole battle, because that used to be an old. I think that came after like the original BF2. Like it was almost like an expansion. Like it was the same core game and engine, but it was just the new
You mean like the futuristic
um
type one?
yes, it was like the new, almost like an expansion, I guess you will. It was like, and I didn't play it. I played it later, and it was kind of cool. But yeah, it's just like, I mean, I played BF2 way back in the day, and I had a lot of fun playing that. Like a lot of fun. I'd sunk a lot of hours into it. And then BF3 um came out a little bit later after I got off the franchise, and I played it, and I was just like, it's more of the same. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's stuff like that stuff. I really need something new and fresh and that has like a lot that I can really sink more of my 20s into?
Exactly. Yeah, like BF, I've always been a bit torn. Like, I think the issue for me is I don't really like arbitrary, like capture the point style FPSs.
Hmm.
It's just always been my preference. It's even in real life. Like I've been paintballing a bunch in my in
Yeah.
actually it was around sort of like kind of 18, that kind of time when like everybody was just going paintballing all the time, and I just never really enjoyed capture the flag that much. I'm just not really like that big of a fan of just like arbitrary objectives. I quite like making my own objectives, that kind of thing. It's why I quite like EFT, but
Hmm.
I've never really like BF that much. But there's a bunch of people who there's a bunch of guys that I know who like had great fun on like 2142, and that's why they're all like super hyped for it. So maybe it'll be good. I'm not sure. I think like just before we move on, I think like
Yeah.
the only other game, because you said about like single player storyline type games, which I don't play all that often, to be honest. But the
Yeah.
last one that I played that really sucked me in, that I actually really did enjoy a lot, was Subnautica. That was really good.
Heard about
Subnautica
it.
was
Yeah.
really. I would highly recommend it. I played Subnautica so strongly that I basically was like refusing to play anything else with anyone until it was finished.
Now
Subnautica is insane.
that game has a bit of depth to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got like a base building element as well as like
Yeah.
really good story, but the game itself is like, it's like video game design like 101. Like you feel
Mhm.
like you're discovering the story without it pushing
Oh, I
pushing it
love
on
it.
you, and you feel like, because the game doesn't like make, it's just like gives you clues, and you kind of like, you feel like you're doing it yourself, even though it's just very clever game design. It's very good. It's very good. It's very
I'll
good.
have to it's on my list.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that, and I don't play many single players, and
Yeah.
so that's really one that I think is well worth it.
Cool, man. All right. And the last message, salty mayo.
Hey guys, first long time listener, first time caller. Sorry about the noise in my truck, but GigaBeef. I just want to let you know, if you need someone as a body to test out those damage numbers on, I am more than willing to do it. It's salty_mayo. You can find me on Twitch, or you can find me on I think it's real_salty_mayo on Twitter and Facebook. Just letting you know, I am always down for testing. I have done it in a bunch of other games, and I am so down to do that in Tarkov. Maybe revive a little bit of want to play Tarkov. But anyway, yeah, keep me in mind. You guys are awesome, Church. I heard you in the podcast. Thanks a bunch, guys. Have a great day.
There we go. You heard Church in the podcast, guys. It's fine.
Oh no, no, no.
Not going to go on about that again, but that's cool. I mean, yeah, that's really because I think last time I was talking about doing some like testing and that kind of stuff, and like I'm still yet to get around to it. So it's nice to know. Thanks very much, Salty, for getting in touch and saying that you'd you'll help out if I'm looking for someone, because I think at some point I will do that. And we'll have a look at some very specific things. I've got kind of like a list of things. I actually forgot there was some other stuff I wanted to look at. Things like does 366 AP one tap level 4 and that kind of thing. So there's like there was some other, there's like some really like borderline threshold ones that I want to try. So, but there's like as Chad's saying, there's like a ton of people who want to volunteer and help out. So there's like that's neat. That's neat.
Yeah.
And I will reach out at some point. I don't know exactly when. I have to build up the
Sure.
I guess like the material to want to do it and like have it done in the right way, and then I'll try and get some testers. So
Yeah.
but it's good. I do want to answer these questions. It's just like getting the time. Like if I'm making a video
Sure.
and I'm just making it like on my own, and I'm just like in a few minutes, I'm just like writing some script stuff, and then I like record it in like one block, just like 20 minutes, just like bash it out, and then like edit it in like bits and pieces over a few days, like to then try and get the momentum up to be like, right, I'm going to organize everybody, we're going to sit down for like 2 hours to like test this thing, and because it's going to take, it always takes longer than you think. It's like bring all the armors, then have everybody in the raids, and we all like go in together and not get like jumped by a scav or some other player or whatever, and like get the good footage, and then take the footage from all the people and like all this stuff, right? So it's just like I'm a bit scared about the time, I think. What?
I just realized the factory testing zone isn't going to work anymore with the expansion.
Exactly. It's now 6. I think even now it's 6 PMCs. I thought I saw someone say. So there's always going to be this one extra person.
Oh no!
So you're gonna have
there
to.
goes
You're
the
gonna just have
testing
to.
arena.
I know exactly. So you're gonna have to like hide in a corner of woods or something.
Yeah,
I
that
don't know.
could work.
Yeah, I have to see. I have to see. But anyway, yeah. Thanks for the offer of help. I've had a lot of offers of help, and I appreciate it. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know if there's something to do.
Appreciate everyone calling in and leaving the messages. Really good questions that we had, and some really cool discussions we got to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Anything else you want to add, Giga?
I think that's it. I think that's it. I think just excited for new content and seeing stuff happening.
Yeah.
And I think BSG are doing it the right way. Nikita seems to be really like back in the community and like out there and talking to people, and he's excited about the game. And you can see he looks better, I think, in himself, like when he's doing these interviews and stuff. So I think he's in a really good mental place. Like I can imagine how stressed he was when there was like not really much content on the horizon. He wants to release Lighthouse, but the map's not like barely ready. Like factory expansion is still being built. Streets is like probably going to get pushed out, and he knew it in the back of his head for ages. You can imagine how stressed the guy is, right?
Yeah.
So, but now he's got like stuff to talk about, exciting things. People are getting excited. People are going to come back to the game. I think it's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to the future of Tarkov. I think it's going to be awesome, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to it and hoping I get a bit more time to play.
I'm excited for the new content. I really hope there'll be some new. One of the things I want to do for my content is have a video where it's like your goals as a like that the sort of like the meta for 1 to 10, I guess, and like how I approach it and sort of like my advice to approach that. And then sort of like the next phase, which is like my next goal is like level 40 maxing traders and sort of like how I approach that, and then like what to do past that point. How do I my goal from that? There's sort of like 3 stages. Like 1 to 10 is like the early game, the mid game's like 10 through 40, and then the late game is like 40 plus, where I just farm ruples. Just make money. Let's get bank. And yeah, that's and I'm hoping like there will be some meta changes to like the game as a whole. Like maybe some trader items get moved, some new stuff happens. That stuff's always interesting. Because I was looking through some of the barter stuff, and there's some interesting new stuff they added that's kind of been under the radar. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. We will see.
All right, that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate your support as always. Discord server is currently in the work in progress stage. I got the server made, I got the logo on, and there's a general channel. That's about it. So it's a work in progress, but we'll get that going and be a cool way to connect with everyone. Be sure to check out the Anchor platform if you want to send us a message. It's anchor.fm/ScavTalk. Leave us a message there. Maybe you'll get featured in the show. And with that, we'll catch you next time, guys.
See you later.